Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're going to start a new project, and we are going to do something that I haven't done before. We're going to do a cell phone pouch that hangs around your neck, but we're adding something a little bit different. We're going to add a pouch on top of that to hold your glasses. So my wife asked if I could make something that she could always carry her cell phone in, but she said I have to have my glasses too. So we're going to put these two together, make one unit, and we'll go ahead and get started. So come on in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to work on is building a pattern for this. I've got a piece of white poster board. I've got some of this brown 4-ounce brown dyed chocolate colored leather that I'm going to use. This is that non-slip, like you put in kitchen cabinets, like a liner to keep your dishes from sliding around. And it's kind of thick and it's also clingy. So I'm going to use some of that, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. And then I've got some plastic wrap. So that's what the materials I'm starting out with. And the reason I wanted to go with this clingy liner is because I don't want her to struggle when her phone rings. I don't want her struggling getting her phone in and out of this pouch. I want it to slide in and out fairly easy. It does have a lanyard on it, so that would help. So it would actually go in upside down, so she could pull it straight out with her lanyard. And it does have a case on it. We don't want to take that off. So what I'm going to do is, in order to fatten that phone up, before I even get started on the pattern, so I'm going to lay that down on there. And I'm going to roll that up. Now I'm also going to wet form this. So I'm going to leave this on there during the wet forming process. So I've rolled that over. It's got two thicknesses on it. And there's 3. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that up so I can use my cutting mat. I'm going to cut that excess away. Then I've got this excess here at the bottom. I'll do the same. Now what that's going to do is that's going to leave some excess for the thickness of that phone down there also. And that stuff cuts real easy with a razor knife. Then there's what it looks like with 3 layers of that on there. Then I'll take my plastic wrap what that's going to do, that's going to protect it from when I do the wet forming. That'll keep all the moisture off of it. So let's go ahead and keep that lanyard out. Let's pull the bottom of the plastic wrap. I'm going to pull it nice and snug around across the top. Then I'll continue to wrap. Now remember, this plastic's not going to have much thickness to it. So it's not to build thickness as much as it is just protect from the moisture. So there's what I'm making my pattern off of and what I'm going to wet form to. So let's go ahead and get started. I think what I'm going to end up doing is making two pieces, a back and a front, instead of folding it over. Could fold it over long ways and just stitch it down the sides, but because I'm going to wet form this, I'm going to leave the back flat, wet form the top, and then stitch the top to the flat back. We'll see how that works. We'll have to also, before we do that, stitch the glass pouch on the front. So this is going to take a few steps here. So what I'm going to do first is just draw an outline, and it's going to be a little rough. It's not going to be perfect because of all the wrapping on there. So there's the outline of the actual phone that's wrapped. So let's go ahead and straighten out those lines. And then it looks like it's going to be right at 4 inches. So let's go ahead and make it exactly 4 inches, because it was just a hair under. And then I'm going to leave plenty of room to stitch this up. Now, how am I going to do that? Is I'm going to go, let's get the bottom here. Square that up. And then roughly that's going to be 8 inches, 7 to 8 inches. We're going to make it 8 inches, and then we can always trim that off as we need. So there's my pattern for the back piece. That's where the phone's going to lie. I still need room to stitch. So let's go ahead and make that 5/8 of an inch on each side. And I always err on too much instead of not enough. So I would much rather have too much material and have to trim it down after the fact than to not have enough and not be able to do anything about it. So there's my outside. Let me pick this up so you can get a better view of it. There's the outside of my back piece of my pattern. Now it looks a little large, but you got to remember this is going to be sitting in there fairly loose so that it can be removed and inserted. Then this has to have enough room to stitch in the machine because I'm going to do it on a machine. Then I can trim any excess off and make it even. So that's the back pattern. Let's go ahead and run this all the way across. And we can go ahead and cut that out. Of course, I'm going to cut it on the outside lines. And that border is easy enough to recognize as my stitching area. So I'll cut the inside and the top. That way that gets that larger piece out of my way, and I'll use it here in just a minute. And then I can go cut the bottom. The outside. So as soon as I get this cut, I'll go ahead and mark it, and I'll just call it the flat back, and in parentheses up here I'll put phone with glasses. So I've got a million patterns and I don't want to get that one mixed up. So let's double check everything. There's where the phone would lay in there. Outside here, here, and here is where it would stitch. The top piece that we're going to make is going to fold over. So what I'm going to do is grab my poster board for my pattern again. And then what I need is I need that big enough to go over this way, and match up with this. So I have to allow for the thickness of the foam. So we'll double check that. With all this wrapper on there, you're looking at about 3/4 to an inch. So you're talking 3/4 of an inch up and down this way from the top of the foam to the back. So if we go 3/4 of an inch out here and down at the bottom from this pattern, that should be enough room. So we'll go ahead and measure that off. So we've got 5 1/4, so it'd be 6 inches make sure this is square. So I'm going to square it off on my cutting mat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. What did I say? 6 inches. Let's see. 3/4 on one side would be 6, so it would be 6 3/4 total. No, we said 1 inch. Yeah, we wanted to go 1 inch. So 5 1/4 would be 6 1/4, 7 1/4, because you want to go 1 inch on each side. So let's do 7 1/4. Again, this is one of those things, if it's too wide, then we can always trim some of the leather off. But if it's too narrow, can't add anything on there. So going up, it is, right now, we'll probably have to shorten this a little bit. It's 8 5/8. So let's go ahead and go up 8 5/8 so we can trim this off and square it up. 8. And then we can just trim this off and get this out of the way so we can see our grid. And that way we can square this up. So 7 1/4. And this would be for the top piece. Now, the next piece, and we'll do foam, glasses, top, wet form. So I'll put all my notes on my pattern so I can always refer back to that. So there's my two patterns, my top and my back. Then what I need is a pouch to hold a pair of glasses. So I'm going to put that right in the center of this. So let's find the center. This is 7 1/4 wide. So let's go 3 5/8. And I'll put a dashed line there so I know that's my center. Won't confuse that with anything else. So there's my center line. Then what I need to do is find out how much do I need on here of this leather in order to make a pouch. I'm not wet forming this just because of the shape of the glasses. I think it'd be, and they're plastic, I don't think it'd have a very good chance of survival. But I'm going to make it more of a loose pouch. They will fit in there snug so they don't fall out, but it won't be wet formed down to the actual glasses itself. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to get a different measuring tape. All right, here's my measuring tape for sewing, which is going to make this so much easier. So we can go put it at its highest point here and leave enough for stitching. About 4.5. About 4.5 inches wide. And then it's going to need to be about 6 inches long. So let's grab another piece of poster board. Double check everything. 4.5 should be plenty. By 6. So let's square this edge up. Go 4.5. And then let's go 6 inches. And then what I want to do, as soon as I get this cut out, I'll show you how I want to do the bottom part. I don't want this to end up just being a rectangle on a rectangle. I want to give it a little bit of depth and a little bit of shape. The phone, I can't really help that much because it is a rectangle, but with the glasses we can do a little bit. So here's my just name it glasses top. Then what I want to do, instead of just making this, I'm leaving it rectangle or square at the top, but at the bottom I'm going to just round it off just a little bit just to give it some shape. So I got to find something. Maybe we just use the glasses. As the shape we're looking for. And it doesn't really take a whole lot. and I'll mark one end, one corner, cut that off, and I'll flip that over to the opposite corner and mark it with that piece. That way I know they're identical. They're going to be exactly the same. I'm just cutting that hard edge off of it. So there's the rounded edge. That'll change the look of that quite a bit. If this is the front, let's just use the phone itself, and this is over like so, stitched, that rounded edge down here is going to change it rather than it just being rectangled or squared off. So I think that's going to make a big difference. Such a small cut. So there are my pieces that I need. This is my flat back. And of course, your sizes are going to differ from the size of your phone, whether it has a case on or it doesn't have a case. This is my front, and yes, it is bigger than the back, but that's because I'm going to wet form this around that phone. So that I will need excess leather to wet form that. And then this is our glasses case that will go on top of that. And it'll be stitched like so. So it'll form a pouch on top. So glasses will go in the outside, phone will go in the inside. So there's my three pieces, and there's my final pattern for this project. All right, so I've got my pieces, my patterns ready to cut out the leather for this project. So make sure you come on back. This is going to be a two-parter. Come on back next week and check out the finished product of this. I'll go ahead and do the wet forming off camera, bring you back after that's set up. Then I can go ahead and move on to putting this together. So appreciate you coming along. Appreciate you watching. If you haven't yet, please smash that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.